This is the Cold War, year by year. A digest of the events of America's longest conflict. Chapter 4, 1948. 1948 would see a major escalation in America's efforts to solidify its influence on global affairs in an attempt to counter the Soviet Union's sharply increased political and military engagement in Eastern Europe, Asia, and elsewhere. This battle for influence would even spread to the home front, with suspicions being raised regarding the loyalty of federal employees in the U.S. government. The Federal Employee Loyalty Program was created by President Truman with Executive Order 9835 in March 1947 and was in full swing by the beginning of 1948. This program aimed to uncover and root out communism from all areas of the government and gave the FBI power to investigate federal employees. It created presidentially appointed loyalty review boards to act on reports from the agency's investigations. Investigations typically targeted federal employees suspected of alleged communist affiliations. Truman's order also created the controversial Attorney General's list of subversive organizations, which contributed to the so-called Red Scare of the era, and resulted in the phenomenon known as McCarthyism over the next decade. While aiming to secure the nation against internal threats, the program faced criticism for its invasive nature and the potential for unjust accusations, leading to significant social and political tensions surrounding civil liberties and government intrusion into individual privacy. In February, a pro-Soviet communist government took control of the Central European nation of Czechoslovakia in the wake of a coup d'etat that ousted the legitimate president, Edvard Beneš. The Communist Party of Czechoslovakia, led by Klement Gottwald, employed radio broadcasts, newspapers, and other media outlets to disseminate misinformation that portrayed the coup d'etat as a necessary step for the protection of the country, emphasizing the threat of Western imperialism and presenting the Communist Party as the defender of the people. Later, in May, rigged elections were used to legitimize the communist victory. The coup, dubbed Victorious February, coupled with the establishment of communist governments in Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, and soon Hungary, strengthened the Soviet Union's influence in Central and Eastern Europe, and firmly placed Czechoslovakia into the Soviet sphere of influence, solidifying the Iron Curtain's division of Europe. The British Mandate for Palestine was established as a result of the collapse of the Ottoman Empire after World War I. The Mandate was a mechanism designed by the League of Nations to administer Palestine and prepare it for eventual self-government. By 1948, it was set to expire, and the concepts outlined in a new plan, the United Nations Partition Plan for Palestine, were to go into effect. This set the stage for conflict, as the Palestinian people and the neighboring Arab nations strongly opposed the UN plan. On May 14th, prominent Zionist leader David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. This situation resulted in an immediate military invasion by the Arab states. The United States provided vital support diplomatically and later militarily to Israel. Simultaneously, the Soviet Union provided Arab states with military aid, aiming to expand its influence in the region. The war became a proxy battleground for the U.S. and the Soviet Union. In backing Israel, the U.S. hoped to gain a pro-Western democratic state in the Middle East, while the Soviet Union aimed to gain the support of the Arab nations. With Israel ultimately successful in the war, Cold War divisions became entrenched in the Middle East. On June 21, 1948, the Deutschmark, also known as the German mark, was introduced in the western zones of Germany, including West Berlin, as the official currency. The establishment of the Deutschmark was a key step in the economic reforms led by the Western Allies to counteract hyperinflation and stimulate economic growth in the aftermath of World War II. 2 days later, on June 23rd, the East German mark, supported by the Soviet Union, was introduced in the eastern zones. Disputes over these currency actions would quickly escalate, and a day after the introduction of the East German currency, the Berlin blockade began. The Soviet Union, fearing a strengthened Western presence, initiated the blockade of all land and water routes into the western sectors of Berlin. The Soviets hoped to force the Allies out of their zones of occupation, aiming to seize control of the entire city.
Tage Blockade. Allmählich hatte man sich an das unaufhörliche Surren der Flugzeuge
In response to the blockade, the Allies initiated the Berlin Airlift on June 26, 1948. This massive logistical operation involved fleets of cargo planes transporting vital supplies, including food, coal, and medicine, into West Berlin. The airlift became a symbol of determination and solidarity among the Western Allies, highlighting their commitment to defending the city's residents against Soviet aggression. During the period from June 1948 to May 1949, approximately 278,000 flights were completed to supply West Berlin. These flights delivered around 2.3 million tons of essential supplies. The Berlin Airlift demonstrated the Allies' determination and capability to sustain the city and support democracy in Europe. Operation Sandstone, conducted in 1948, was a U.S. project comprising 3 atmospheric nuclear tests in the Central Pacific Ocean. Test X-ray involved a nuclear bomb dropped from a plane. Test Yoke used a tower to detonate the bomb. Test Zebra was an underwater test. These tests were pivotal in advancing the United States nuclear know-how, in refining bomb designs, and in measuring the effects of an atomic bomb. As America was at this point the only nation with nuclear weapons, these tests sent a powerful message to the Soviet Union and the rest of the world, and lent a particularly ominous tone to the Cold War. Coming up, 1949. NATO is formed. There's a communist victory in China. Germany is officially divided into two countries, and the Soviets get the bomb. All that and more next time on The Cold War, Year by Year.